The desperate plea. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless species, endless stars, and boundless opportunities. Yet when the moment of greatest need came, it also proved cold and indifferent. The Lorthans, an ancient race known for their wisdom and peacekeeping across the galaxy, now found themselves on the brink of annihilation. Their cities, once vibrant with crystalline towers and serene lakes, were reduced to smoldering ruins. The skies over their homeworld, Lortha, were darkened by the shadow of the ruthless Trallak fleet. Kelthara, the last surviving member of the Lorthan High Council, sat alone in a hidden chamber beneath the ruins of their capital city. Her silvery robes, once symbols of dignity, were torn and stained with ash. Her trembling fingers hovered over a holographic communicator. This was her final message, a plea to anyone in the galaxy willing to listen. Her voice, though steady, carried the weight of despair. To all sentient beings across the stars, this is Kelthara of Lortha. Our world is falling. The Trallaks have ravaged our cities, enslaved our people, and desecrated all we hold sacred. The Galactic Council has turned its back on us. They claim our plight is an internal matter. I beg you, whoever you are, wherever you are, help us. Please. Her voice cracked, but she refused to let the tears fall. She sent the transmission, knowing it would likely go unanswered. For days, she had reached out to every corner of the galaxy, only to be met with silence or hollow apologies. The Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced species claiming to maintain peace and order, had refused to intervene. To them, the Lorthans were expendable, a relic of a bygone era. Meanwhile, far away in the Terran sector, aboard a human exploratory ship named Eos, Captain Alex Grant sat in his modest command chair, sipping coffee as his crew scanned the void for signs of new worlds. Humanity was still a relatively new player in the galactic arena. Earth had only recently joined the Galactic Council, though they were treated more as an afterthought than an equal member. Humanity's reputation was still forming, a mix of curiosity and skepticism among the more established species. The Eos wasn't a military ship. It was a multipurpose vessel designed for exploration and humanitarian aid. Its crew was small but diverse, a mix of engineers, scientists, and a handful of former soldiers. They were used to long stretches of silence as they traveled the uncharted sectors, cataloging planets and occasionally offering assistance to struggling colonies. When Kelthara's desperate transmission was picked up by their communications officer, the bridge fell silent. The message played on the central screen, Kelthara's haunting words echoing through the ship. Her image, a dignified figure reduced to desperation, captivated them all. "Captain," said Lieutenant Rachel Torres, the ship's tactical officer, "this is bad. The Trallaks are no joke. Even the Council won't take them head-on." Alex stared at the screen, his expression unreadable. He wasn't a man to act rashly, but something about the message struck a chord. Humanity had faced its own struggles when it first ventured into the stars, abandoned by allies, underestimated by rivals. They had learned the hard way what it meant to stand alone. And now, they had a choice to make. "What do you think, Alex?" asked Dr. Lena Carter, the ship's xenobiologist. "The Council's silence says it all. No one's going to help them." Alex leaned forward, his coffee forgotten. "We've all read the history books. When Earth was on the brink, no one came to our aid either. But we found a way to survive." His gaze swept over his crew. "Are we going to sit here and let history repeat itself?" The crew exchanged uncertain glances. The Eos wasn't a warship, and the Trallaks were known for their brutal efficiency in combat. But there was something in Alex's voice, something that made them believe this wasn't just a suicide mission. This was about doing what was right, even when the odds were stacked against them. "But sir," Rachel began hesitantly, "what can one ship do against an entire fleet?" Alex smirked, a flicker of defiance in his eyes. "Sometimes one ship is all it takes. We'll find them, get their people out, and show the galaxy what humanity stands for." The crew fell silent, processing the enormity of what their captain was proposing. Finally, one by one, they nodded. The humans might have been new to the galactic stage, but they weren't about to stand by while innocent lives were extinguished. Calthera's transmission ended, leaving a heavy silence on the bridge. Alex took a deep breath and issued the order. Set a course for Lorthan. Let's give these Trallaks a reason to remember the name Eos. As the ship's engines roared to life and the stars stretched into streaks of light, Calthera sat in her ruined chamber, staring at the silent communicator. Unbeknownst to her, an unlikely savior was on its way, a ship carrying a crew who believed in second chances and a captain who was about to make history. The stage was set. Humanity had chosen to step forward when the galaxy turned its back. And for Calthera and her people, hope was about to arrive in the form of the most unpredictable force in the universe: humans. Against all odds. The Eos hurtled through the endless void, its engines straining against the vast distance to Lorthan. The crew worked tirelessly, preparing for a mission that none of them were fully equipped for. The ship wasn't built for combat, and every member knew the odds of success were slim. Still, there was no turning back. Humanity had always thrived in adversity, and this was no different. On the bridge, Captain Alex Grant stood over the navigation console, his sharp eyes scanning the star map. "How long until we reach the Lorthan system?" he asked. 6 hours, if we keep pushing the engines," replied Rachel Torres, the tactical officer. "But Captain, I've run the simulations. Even if we get there, we're looking at a full Trallak occupation. Our ship's not a match for their smallest cruiser." Alex didn't flinch. "Then we'll make sure they don't see us coming. Keep working on those stealth systems. We'll need every trick we've got." In the lower decks, Dr. Lena Carter and the engineer, Marcus Sparks Holt, worked to modify the ship's sensors and shielding. Sparks wiped sweat from his brow, grinning despite the pressure. "You know," he said, tightening a bolt, "if we pull this off, they're gonna write songs about us." Lena smirked, adjusting the calibration on a scanner, "or put us in the history books as fools. Either way, it's better than doing nothing." Meanwhile, Alex gathered the crew in the mess hall for a briefing. The atmosphere was tense, every face reflecting a mix of fear and determination. A holographic image of Lorthan's orbit appeared on the table, surrounded by red markers representing the Trallak fleet. "We're not here to fight a war," Alex began. "We're here to save lives. Our mission is to get Calthera and as many survivors as we can off that planet. Quietly." "How do we get past that?" a junior officer asked, pointing to the holographic enemy ships. Alex leaned forward, his voice steady. "The Trallaks rely on brute force. They're not used to thinking outside the box. That's where we have the advantage. Sparks has been working on a decoy system. If it works, we can create false signals to draw their attention away from our approach." "And if it doesn't?" someone asked. Alex gave a grim smile. "Then we improvise." The crew nodded, their fears overshadowed by the unshakable determination in their captain's voice. If anyone could pull this off, it was Alex Grant. In the Lorthan capital, Calthera remained hidden in her underground refuge, monitoring the movements of the Trallaks through a damaged but functional scanner. Every hour, the invaders tightened their grip on the planet, systematically destroying everything that once made Lorthan a symbol of peace. She had long given up hope that her message would reach anyone. The Galactic Council had already shown their indifference. Why would anyone else care? But just as despair began to consume her, her scanner picked up an anomaly. A signal unlike anything the Trallaks used. A small, fast-moving object was entering Lorthan's system, broadcasting a human identifier. Calthera frowned. Humans. They were a relatively young species, barely acknowledged by the galaxy's elites. What could they possibly hope to accomplish here? Her communicator crackled to life. "Calthera," a voice said, calm but firm. "This is Captain Alex Grant of the Eos. We received your message. We're coming for you." For a moment, she couldn't speak. She had braced herself for more silence, more rejection. But here was a stranger, a human no less, risking everything to answer her plea. "Captain Grant," she finally replied, her voice unsteady. "You don't understand. The Trallaks, their fleet is overwhelming. You can't win." "We're not here to win," Alex replied. "We're here to save you. Hold tight. Help is on the way." As the EOs neared Lorthan's orbit, Rachel announced grimly, "We've got company. Trallak patrol ships, closing fast." Alex's eyes narrowed. "Sparks, is that decoy ready?" "Ready as it'll ever be," Sparks replied from engineering. "Do it." Moments later, a burst of false signals erupted from the EOs, scattering across the system. The Trallak ships hesitated, their scanners overwhelmed with conflicting data. Alex seized the opportunity. "Take us in, full stealth. Let's hope they stay confused." The EOs slipped through the blockade, navigating debris fields and sensor grids with nerve-wracking precision. The crew held their breath as the Trallak scanners swept dangerously close. A single mistake could mean certain death. Finally, they broke through, descending into Lorthan's atmosphere. Calthera's coordinates appeared on their screen. "We're in," Alex announced. "Now comes the hard part. The first encounter." The EOs settled on the cracked and scorched surface of Lorthan, its landing struts sinking slightly into the ash-covered ground. The crew worked quickly to secure the ship, tension filling the air as they prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. Through the view screen, the once majestic city of Elthera lay in ruins, its crystalline towers reduced to jagged shards, and its vibrant streets now lifeless. "Keep your eyes open," Alex said, strapping on his gear. "We've only got one shot at this, and we're deep in enemy territory." Rachel Torres checked her weapon, glancing at the scans on her wrist console. "We've got patrols circling the area. If they spot us, we won't last 5 minutes." "We're not here to fight," Alex reminded her. "Avoid engagement unless absolutely necessary. Sparks, you stay with the ship. If things go south, you'll need to get us out of here." Sparks gave a mock salute. "I'll keep her warm for you. Just make sure you come back." Calthera paced nervously in her underground refuge. The small group of Lorthan survivors with her looked to her for guidance, their wide, silver eyes filled with fear. The sound of distant explosions and the hum of Trallak patrol ships reverberated through the tunnels. "Do you think they'll come?" one of the younger Lorthans whispered. Calthera hesitated before replying. "They said they would. Humans, they are unpredictable. Perhaps that is their strength." Suddenly, her communicator buzzed. "Calthera, this is Captain Grant. We're nearing your location. Can you confirm the coordinates?" Her heart raced as she quickly answered. "Coordinates confirmed. But be careful. There are Trallak patrols everywhere." "We'll get through. Just stay ready." The transmission ended, leaving her to wonder how these humans, so bold and seemingly reckless, planned to succeed where so many others had failed. The crew of the EOs moved swiftly through the ruins, navigating the crumbling streets with precision. They avoided open areas, keeping to the shadows, and using their scanners to detect nearby Trallak patrols. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and ozone, a grim reminder of the devastation wrought by the invaders. "Contact, 10 o'clock, Rachel whispered, signaling for the team to stop. Ahead, a group of Trallak soldiers patrolled a collapsed building, their towering forms silhouetted against the flickering flames. Alex held up a hand, signaling for silence. The team waited, breathless, as the Trallaks passed by, their guttural language echoing faintly in the distance. "That was close," Lena muttered, clutching her medical kit. "How much farther?" "Another half-kilometer," Alex replied, checking the coordinates on his handheld device. "Stay sharp." The group pressed on, finally reaching the entrance to the underground refuge. Alex tapped his communicator. "Calthera, we're here. Open the door." Moments later, a hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow passageway. Calthera stood at the entrance, her elegant features marred by exhaustion and fear. She stared at Alex, momentarily speechless. He was not what she had expected, a human in rugged gear, his face determined yet calm. "You're real," she said softly, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I thought no one would come." Alex offered a small smile. "We're here to help. Let's get your people out of here." Kelthera quickly led them inside, where a dozen Lorthan survivors huddled together. The sight of the humans brought a mixture of relief and apprehension. The Lorthans were a peaceful race, unaccustomed to violence or confrontation. The humans, with their weapons and battle-worn demeanor, seemed both alien and powerful. As the crew worked to organize the group for extraction, a faint rumble shook the ground. Rachel's scanner beeped urgently. "Trallak patrols are converging on our position. They must have picked up the ship's energy signature." "We don't have much time," Alex said, his voice firm. "Everyone, move." The group emerged from the refuge just as a squad of Trallak soldiers appeared in the distance, their red, glowing eyes locked onto the humans and their Lorthan charges. A chilling roar echoed through the ruins as the soldiers charged forward. "Rachel, covered fire," Alex shouted, raising his weapon. Rachel and a few others unleashed a barrage of suppressive fire, forcing the Trallaks to take cover. Sparks, monitoring the situation from the ship, activated the decoy system, creating false signals to draw enemy attention away from their escape route. "Go, go, go," Alex urged, helping Kelthera and the survivors climb into the waiting transport. The EOs surged through the atmosphere, its engines roaring as Alex and his crew pushed the ship to its limits. Behind them, Trallak ships filled the skies, their relentless pursuit leaving no room for error. Sparks worked frantically in engineering, rerouting power to the shields as enemy fire battered the ship. On the bridge, Alex's focus never wavered. "Rachel, status on the survivors," he called out, his voice cutting through the tension. "They're secure in the lower deck," Rachel replied. "Kelthera says there are still others trapped in the city, though. She's begging us to go back." Alex grimaced. Every instinct told him to run, to get the Lorthans they had saved off the planet and out of harm's way. But the desperate look in Kelthera's eyes as she pleaded for her people haunted him. "We didn't come this far to leave anyone behind," he said firmly. "Rachel, plot a course back to the surface. Sparks, I need those shields holding just a little longer." Kelthera stood at the edge of the bridge, her silver eyes wide with shock as she watched the humans work. "You're going back?" she asked, her voice a mix of disbelief and awe. "After all this, you're risking everything for strangers." Alex turned to face her, his expression hard but resolute. "No one gets left behind. Not on my watch." The EOs banked sharply, dodging enemy fire as it descended once more into the ruins of the Lorthan capital. The crew braced for impact as the ship touched down amidst the chaos. Trallak soldiers were closing in fast, their guttural roars echoing through the ruined streets. Alex and his team moved quickly, weapons drawn, as they sprinted toward a cluster of survivors huddled in the remains of a marketplace. "Move, move, move," Alex shouted, covering the group as Rachel and Lena ushered the survivors toward the ship. Sparks, monitoring from the cockpit, activated a makeshift turret, sending a barrage of fire toward the advancing Trallaks. The ground shook as enemy artillery struck dangerously close, but the humans didn't falter. Kelthera watched from the safety of the ship's hold, her heart pounding as she witnessed the humans' bravery. They fought with an intensity she had never seen before, their every action driven by a fierce determination to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. For the first time, she began to understand what set humans apart from the other species of the galaxy. As the last of the survivors were loaded onto the EOs, a deafening explosion rocked the area. A Trallak warship loomed overhead, its massive cannons trained on the human vessel. Sparks shouted through the comms, "Captain, we got about 30 seconds before they turn us into scrap metal." Alex gritted his teeth. "Rachel, get us out of here. Full power to engines. Sparks, deploy every decoy we've got." The EOS roared to life, its thrusters kicking up a storm of debris as it lifted off. Trallak ships swarmed around them, their weapons lighting up the sky. Sparks released a barrage of decoy drones, scattering false signals that confused the enemy's targeting systems. The crew held their breath as the EOS broke through the atmosphere, narrowly avoiding the pursuing fleet. In the safety of open space, Alex finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. The survivors, huddled together in the ship's hold, looked around in stunned silence. Kelthera stepped forward, her gaze fixed on Alex. "You came back for us," she said softly, her voice trembling with gratitude, "even when it could have cost you everything." Alex met her gaze, his expression weary but resolute. "That's what we do. Humanity doesn't turn its back on those who need help." Kelthera nodded, her respect for these strange and unpredictable beings growing with every passing moment. As the EOS sped away from Lorthan, its crew exhausted but victorious, a new hope began to take root in her heart. Perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy hadn't abandoned her people entirely. The EOS streaked through space, its hull battered but intact after the harrowing escape from Lorthan. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was tense but focused. The Lorthan survivors huddled together in the cargo bay, their expressions a mix of relief and fear. Kelthera stood apart, her gaze fixed on a small, glowing artifact in her hands, a crystalline shard that seemed to pulse faintly with its own light. She had tried to keep it hidden, but during the chaos, Alex had noticed her clutching it tightly. In the command room, Alex and his crew gathered to assess the situation. Sparks tapped away at a console, his expression grim. "We've got a problem, Captain. Those Trallaks aren't just chasing us. They're hunting us. They've locked onto our energy signature, and they're not going to stop until we're either dead or out of range." Rachel leaned against the table, arms crossed. "Why are they so obsessed with one refugee ship? This feels personal." Alex turned to Kelthera, who had quietly entered the room, her presence commanding attention despite her small stature. "Kelthera," he said gently, "there's something you're not telling us. What are they after?" She hesitated, her silver eyes darting between the humans. Finally, she sighed and placed the artifact on the table. "This is why they won't stop," she admitted. "It's called the Shard of Lumnus, a relic of my people. It holds the knowledge and power of generations of Lorthan leaders. In the wrong hands, it could become a weapon of unimaginable destruction." The crew stared at the shard, its faint glow casting eerie patterns on the walls. Rachel's jaw tightened. "And you've been carrying this with you the whole time." "I had no choice," Kelthera said defensively. "If the Trallaks get their hands on it, they'll use it to conquer not just Lorthan, but the entire galaxy. I couldn't leave it behind." Alex's expression was unreadable as he processed the revelation. "So that's why they're throwing everything they have at us," he muttered. "They're not after the refugees. They're after this." Kelthera nodded, guilt evident in her voice. "I didn't want to put you in more danger, but I couldn't let them have it. It's my duty to protect it." "Well," Sparks said, leaning back in his chair, "we're already neck-deep in this mess. What's a little more danger?" Alex gave him a small smirk before turning serious again. "This changes things. We can't outrun them forever, not with that shard acting like a beacon. Sparks, can we mask its energy signature?" Sparks scratched his head. "Not without some serious modifications, and even then, it'd be a temporary fix. These Trallaks have some pretty advanced tech." Kelthera's voice was quiet but resolute. "If you want to leave me behind, I won't blame you. I never intended for you to risk so much for me." Alex shook his head, his gaze unwavering. "That's not how we operate. You're one of us now, and we don't abandon our own. We'll find a way." Rachel tapped a map on the console, highlighting a nearby star system. "There's an asteroid field here. We could use it to lose the Trallaks, at least for a little while." "It's a gamble," Alex admitted, "but it's the best shot we've got. Everyone, get ready. Sparks, prep the engines. Rachel, plot the course." As the crew moved to their stations, Kelthera lingered behind. "Captain," she said softly, "I owe you and your crew more than I can ever repay." Alex gave her a reassuring smile. "You can repay us by surviving. Let's make sure this shard stays out of the wrong hands." The Eos changed course, heading for the asteroid field with the Trallaks hot on their trail. As they prepared for the next stage of their journey, the weight of their mission settled heavily on everyone. The stakes had never been higher, but they all knew one thing for certain. They weren't giving up. The Eos entered the dense asteroid field, its hull groaning as it maneuvered through the jagged rocks tumbling through space. Sparks worked tirelessly in engineering, recalibrating the ship's shields to withstand the debris. Alex sat in the captain's chair, his eyes fixed on the display showing the relentless Trallak fleet closing in behind them. "Rachel, how's our route looking?" Alex asked, his tone calm despite the tension. "Barely navigable," Rachel replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "The asteroids are unstable, and one wrong move will turn us into scrap. But it's better than getting vaporized by those Trallaks." Alex gave a slight nod. "We'll take our chances. Sparks, keep the shield steady. Lena, be ready for casualties if anything hits us." Kelthera stood silently at the edge of the bridge, clutching the shard of Lumnus. The glowing artifact pulsed faintly, a reminder of the immense responsibility she bore. "Captain Grant," she said hesitantly, "there's something about the shard you need to know. It's not just a source of knowledge. It can be used to disrupt advanced technology. If we're cornered, it might give us an edge." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Why didn't you mention this earlier?" "It's dangerous," she admitted. "Using its power risks damaging not just the enemy, but ourselves. It's a last resort. Let's hope we don't need it," Alex said. "But thank you for telling me." The Eos weaved through the asteroids, using the chaotic environment to keep the Trallak ships at bay. Sparks deployed a series of decoy drones, sending false signals deeper into the field. Several Trallak ships fell for the ruse, crashing into the rocks as they chased the phantom signals. "Nice work, Sparks," Alex called over the comms. "Don't thank me yet, Captain," Sparks replied. "We've still got half their fleet on our tail." Kelthera stepped closer to Alex, her voice low but firm. "You can't outrun them forever. They'll adapt. The Trallaks always do." "I know," Alex replied. "But sometimes buying time is all you need." Suddenly, a massive Trallak warship entered the field, its advanced sensors cutting through the decoys. It began firing precise blasts, clearing a path through the asteroids directly toward the Eos. "They're onto us," Rachel shouted. "That warship's targeting systems are too good. We can't shake it." Alex's mind raced. "Kelthera, if we use the shard, could it disable that warship?" She hesitated, the weight of the decision clear on her face. "It might, but the shard's energy will resonate through the entire field. There's no way to predict how it will react." "We don't have a choice," Alex said. "If that warship catches us, we're done." Kelthera stepped forward, holding the shard with trembling hands. Its glow intensified, casting an eerie light across the bridge. "I'll need to sync it with your ship's systems," she said. "But once it's activated, there's no turning back." "Do it," Alex ordered. "Rachel, get us into position. Sparks, reroute power to the emitter." As Kelthera worked to integrate the shard with the Eos, the ship shuddered under the impact of enemy fire. The Trallak warship loomed closer, its weapons charging for a final strike. "Kelthera, we're out of time," Alex shouted. "It's ready," she replied, pressing her hands to the shard. A blinding wave of energy surged through the ship, radiating outward in a pulse of crackling light. The Trallak warship faltered, its systems flickering as the shard's energy disrupted its advanced technology. The smaller Trallak ships scattered, their sensors overwhelmed by the sudden surge. But the blast also destabilized the asteroid field. Rocks collided violently, sending shockwaves through space. The Eos lurched as debris struck its hull, alarms blaring across the bridge. "Rachel, get us out of here," Alex yelled. "I'm on it," she replied, guiding the ship through the chaos with razor-sharp focus. Sparks worked frantically to stabilize the engines, while Lena tended to injured crew members in the medbay. The EOs finally broke free of the field, leaving the disabled Trallak fleet behind. In the silence that followed, Calthera collapsed to her knees, the shard dimming in her hands. "It worked," she said weakly, "but we can't use it again. The shard's power is nearly depleted." Alex placed a hand on her shoulder. "You bought us time, Calthera. That's all we needed." As the EOs limped toward a nearby safe zone, the crew began to regroup. They had survived, but the journey was far from over. The Trallaks would recover, and the fight for freedom had only just begun. The EOs drifted through the quiet expanse of space, its hull battered and its crew exhausted but alive. In the cargo bay, the Lorthan survivors sat in stunned silence, their silver eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and lingering fear. Calthera, still clutching the now dim shard of Lumnus, leaned against a wall, her face pale but resolute. Alex entered, his commanding presence immediately drawing her attention. "We made it," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But they'll be back, and we won't get a second chance like this." Calthera nodded. "I know. The Trallaks don't give up easily. They'll regroup, and when they do, they'll come at us with everything they have. That's why we have to make the next move," Alex replied. "We've been playing defense, but it's time we take the fight to them." Calthera frowned, her gaze dropping to the shard. "The shard is nearly drained. I can't guarantee it will work again. Without it, we're just one ship against an empire." Alex leaned closer, his tone unwavering. "One ship is all it takes when the people on it refuse to quit. We've already beaten the odds just getting this far. Now we need to push a little further." In the command room, the crew gathered around a holographic map of the sector. Rachel highlighted a nearby system. "The Trallaks have a forward base here. It's where they coordinate their fleet movements. If we can disrupt their operations, we might buy the galaxy enough time to rally against them." "That's a big if," Sparks said, arms crossed. "Our ship's held together by duct tape and luck. How do you plan to take on a fortified base?" "With creativity," Alex replied, a small grin tugging at his lips. "And a little help from our friends." He turned to Calthera. "Do the Lorthans have any allies left? Anyone who might be willing to stand with us?" Calthera hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There is one. The Yerethans, a reclusive race who owe my people a great debt, but they've been in hiding for centuries. Reaching them won't be easy." "Nothing worth doing ever is," Alex said. "Rachel, set a course for Yerethan space. Sparks, start working on every upgrade you can manage. We're going to need all the firepower we can get." As the EOs approached the Yerethan system, Calthera stood on the bridge, her nerves evident. "The Yerethans are not like humans," she warned. "They value logic over emotion. They may not see the Trallaks as their problem." Alex glanced at her. "Then we'll make them see. Sometimes logic needs a push." The ship transmitted a signal to the Yerethans, and moments later, a massive crystalline vessel emerged from the shadows of a gas giant. Its alien beauty was matched only by its sheer size. A voice resonated through the comms, calm and cold. "State your purpose, intruders." Calthera stepped forward, her voice steady despite her fear. "I am Calthera of Lortha. My people are under attack, and I come seeking aid. The Trallaks threaten not just us, but the balance of the galaxy itself. If they are not stopped, your isolation will not protect you." There was a long pause before the voice replied. "Your request is noted. Stand by." Alex leaned toward Calthera. "Not exactly a warm welcome." "It's more than I expected," she admitted. The Yerethans eventually agreed to meet with Calthera and Alex aboard their vessel. The negotiations were tense, with the Yerethan leaders questioning the logic of involving themselves in a conflict that did not directly threaten their people. Alex listened patiently before finally speaking. "You think you're safe because you've stayed hidden," he said, "but the Trallaks won't stop with Lortha. They'll keep expanding, consuming everything in their path. You can wait until they come for you, or you can stand with us now and stop them before it's too late." The Yarathan leader studied Alex carefully. "Humans are known for their recklessness," he said. "Yet your resolve is compelling. We will consider your request." Back on the Eos, the crew waited anxiously for the Yarathan's decision. When the crystalline ship finally transmitted its response, the crew held their breath. "We will assist you," the voice said. "But know this, if we fall, it will be on your conscience." Alex smiled grimly. "If we succeed, it'll be on all of ours." With the Yarathan's support, the Eos and its newfound allies launched a coordinated strike on the Trallak base. The battle was fierce, the odds stacked against them. But with the humans' ingenuity, the Lorthan's courage, and the Yarathan's precision, they managed to cripple the Trallak operations. The part ends with the Trallaks retreating, their once dominant fleet fractured. Kelthera stands beside Alex on the bridge, watching as the enemy ships disappear into the void. "You've done what no one else dared," she said softly. "You've given the galaxy a chance." Alex nodded, his expression determined. "And we're just getting started."